Welcome to the GLAC studio. This is Gomathi, Siva, Sankaran, founder, CEO, the guiding light art company building bright futures through art. Today, in the season 2, episode 4 of the GLAC What Next series, Change Management Practice, we are discussing a very important topic, emotional intelligence. I am amazed by the thought process of how emotional intelligence can affect or impact the personal or work lives of people and overall make a positive change. Get to know more about us, what exactly ticks and what exactly works for us. I am so curious to talk to this person and understand more about emotional intelligence. We are going all the way to Ocala, Florida to meet ADAM ROSENSWEIG. Without much ado, let's get on to the show and get to know change management in practice, the emotional intelligence way. Welcome to the GLAC What Next series, Change Management in Practice. I am super happy to be interviewing you. This has been something that I've been dreaming of, that I will meet someone who does the business of, focusing more on or all of it on emotional intelligence, and I finally have you. So it's like winning a lottery for me. I cannot explain more.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad I could be there to be a part of the show, and I'm excited to talk with you too. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, thank you. Before I start rolling into all the questions, I think it will be really nice for you to explain just about yourself, what you've been doing, and how you ended up being in this emotional intelligence arena.
Okay. Well, I live in Florida, United States, in Central Florida, in a city called Ocala, and I moved here to Ocala when I was about 15 years old. I grew up in South Florida, around the Miami area, not in Miami, just close to it. It was in a city called Sunrise, around the Fort Lauderdale. It's all in the similar area. Mm-hmm. And I grew up there. I mean, we moved to. My father has operated a construction company, a subcontractor company, for my whole life. And we moved to Ocala because of work. There wasn't any work where I grew up, so we had to move to Central Florida, where my grandparents lived. Mm-hmm. And that's where I entered adulthood, was there. And when I started working, I started working part-time when I was 15, and I worked for my father. I was in construction, mm-hmm. Carpentry to be specific. We did framing, so the rough carpentry, and so like the bones of the house. And we worked on residential, new construction, and I did that for a long time. And I learned the trade, and it was, it's hard work. You're in Florida. The Florida heat beats down on you, and you get a very strong tan. And in my youth, it was fine. It was a job. It paid my bills. I got married while doing the job, so it paid for my family for a long time. And then here comes 2013, and this often happens to a lot of people. It's not just me. But everything that had happened in childhood and some challenges that I had growing up, a lot of it started to come to a head. It began to overwhelm me, and I felt like it was getting to a point where I was starting to buckle. I was starting to cave in, and I didn't know what to do because I knew there was a problem. I was having an emotional and mental crisis, so to speak. And I knew it was affecting my marriage. I knew it was affecting my life. And if I didn't do something about it, I was going to have major, even worse problems. So being a religious person, I made it a matter of prayer. And it wasn't long after that my wife and I met a woman named Jay English. She lives in St. Augustine, Florida, so she's not far from me. It's about a 2-hour drive from where I live.
Okay.
And she does what she calls motivational enhancement. She has a she has a PhD in neurolinguistic psychology, and she specialized in human motivation. So she had her curriculum that she used to train people on an individual level for, life skills and things like that.
Okay.
The short version is my wife and I went through her program, and it had a very profound effect on me, and got me on my journey to overcome all the challenges I was having. The first thing it did is it gave me peace. Second thing it did is it started me down a healing process. So I was very, very grateful for everything I learned. My wife and I did it, and then I decided to do it on my own. And throughout that whole process, part of my problem was my job that I was in construction was fine, but I hated it more and more as my life went on. I needed to do something different, and I felt somewhat trapped because I didn't know what else to do. I was paid, pretty well. So if I did any other job, I would be paid a lot less, and I would suffer financially. And there were other things too. But when I went through that process with Dr. English, I suddenly, not only did I feel peace and did I feel a healing taking place, I found that I started to have the emotional strength to venture out and even just think about doing something different than what I had been doing my whole life. So I started finding courage in these positive things happening in my life that I didn't expect. And so I started thinking about, well, what else could I do? What could I do that I was good at? And after a lot of thought, and this is over the course of 2 years, that Dr. English and I, not only was I healing, but she and I had developed a very strong friendship. So she had become a friend and a mentor, as well as a teacher and somebody who helped me with my life. So we became very, very close. And I loved what I was learning so much. Eventually, I got to the point where I called her up and I said, Jay, I'm doing something outside of construction. I want to work with you. I want to do something with you to start a business, and I don't care what I do. I just want to be close to what it is you do, and I want to be able to share it with other people. So she recommended to me to start a company.
Okay.
And to market her as part of the training. It would be a professional development company where we would go into corporate organizations and train their people to enhance the performance of their people. That's how it started.
Yeah.
I did not. The only thing I could do was support her in her training, and eventually, it wasn't long after I started the company, within 6 months, she had known about emotional intelligence as a specific trade, as a specific thing that somebody can do. She coached me into getting involved with that.
Okay.
So there was a conference in Jacksonville that I went to that was all about emotional intelligence, and I met some great people there. And one of the things that I figured out was there is an assessment called the EQI 2.0 that measures a person's emotional intelligence. And so the light bulb went off, and I followed Dr. English's recommendation, and I got certified in that assessment to be able to use it as a means of training. So that was something and it has all the scientific backing that I would need. So I have the material. I'm a pretty good teacher. So I would use that information as part of the company's training, and Dr. English would be a part of it as well. So we're something of a team.
Okay.
But what was pretty great about it is it gave me an opportunity to be involved with training people as well myself. And it's a great measuring tool, because the idea of emotional intelligence, which if anybody watching this doesn't know what EQ is, there are a lot of definitions to it, but it's basically the idea of being able to understand your own emotions and how it's affecting your behavior.
Yeah.
Or our behavior, and how that impacts other people, because most of the problems we face in the corporate world are behavioral in nature. there's little to no communication, miscommunication. People are too aggressive. There's the toxicity. There's people don't get along. All of this is behavioral.
Yeah.
And that has everything to do with emotional intelligence. So, yeah, I got involved with that. She and I worked together, and I have been operating my business for about 5 years now. Very active on LinkedIn. And that's how you and I met, actually.
Yes.
Was through a mutual connection, and here I am talking to you.
Yes. You make it sound so simple, but I understand this isn't that simple path to just jump all over and say, okay, now I'm not going to do construction. I'm going to be into emotional intelligence or something related to soft skills. And first of all, to believe in yourself, that's one journey, and make your closer people, family, friends, believe in what you have to do, because you're going to let go of the past or life or something. So there are different layers of challenges to start with, the family and you, and then it goes on and on. And how did you handle all these levels of challenges, if I may put it as such?
You make a good point. I haven't given much thought to the challenge of getting my family on board with what I'm doing. but that is a good point. And now that you mentioned it, I did have that challenge. What has been very helpful to me is having Dr. English there to support me. Because when I was thinking about what else I could do, my wife and I really want to move and live in St. Augustine. St. Augustine is a very strong tourist city. That's a big part of the industry there in that town. So I have strong social skills. I'm really good with people. So one of the ideas that I had was maybe I could be a tour guide, and anybody who visits, I could show them around, because that's very common there in that city. And I started to look into that, and my wife was like, it really makes me uneasy. I don't really like that. I'm like, okay. And then I went over to Dr. English. But what's great about, I really did have the support of my wife. That was, once I got into doing this as an avenue, I think what helped her was the fact that I had somebody like Dr. English to look to, because everything I have done has been new, but because Dr. English, she has been in the industry for over 30 years. She's done this. She's done this for a long time. She has all the experience. Any questions I ever have about anything, she's there to be able to answer them. So that helped a lot, because that gave my company, I like to call my company a 30-year-old baby, because the moment I started my company, it had 30 years of experience. Because what I didn't mention was that Dr. English, well, no, I did mention it. Dr. English came on board with me. So she's part of my team. So my company has 30 or more years of experience in helping companies enhance their performance. That was a real blessing when I started my company. So I had that strength, first of all, from a practical standpoint, on how I could make my company a success. Personally, what I was able to do, and this is what I learned about myself, is that we all have negative core beliefs that we have to get over. And one of the I had several beliefs that I was weak, that I wasn't smart, all these things that would get in the way of being successful, or even stop me from taking action. When I met with Dr. English and learned how to overcome these things, everything opened up for me, because I was no longer weak. I was no longer stupid. I was actually smart. I was strong. And because I believed these things and I had that toughness, I was able to take action and move ahead with everything. And even in spite of maybe and it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to do something new. I mean, who wouldn't be uncomfortable jumping out into a whole industry they've never touched before?
Yeah.
But I had a love, and I think that has a lot to do with it. I had a love for what I wanted to do. That was a huge motivator.
Amazing. It is amazing. I still want to go back to this scenario. Um, you have somebody that is experienced on board, so that's a good team, and you trusted in her to start with. But still, I'm looking at when you start businesses. I'm looking at some basic things that we want to um, achieve at least at the beginning. How do you build a network? Because I mean, I understand you are from construction industry, so you will have a good network in that business and so on. But this is another platform altogether, and you will have to reach out to corporates for sessions and workshops and so on. So was that a challenge building the network, the needed connections, or how did it work?
It was challenging. It was challenging in the sense that it took a lot of time. Because when you have nothing, I mean, when I go into this industry, because I have leaned heavily. In fact, 100%. I've leaned 100% on LinkedIn. Because when I started my company, I knew I needed that network. I needed to meet people. Oh, how do you do that? And especially if my company was going to be national in scope as far as who I would work with. I didn't want to reserve it only to Florida. So if I'm going to meet people from across the country, how do I do that? Well, I got involved with LinkedIn, which LinkedIn, the basic LinkedIn is free. It doesn't cost anything. So financially, it was easy to do. Also, on LinkedIn, you start off, you have no connections, you have not spoken to anybody. But that's the value of having interpersonal skills. That's where I had a strength. Was my social skills. Yeah. So the more I learned how to use LinkedIn, the easier it got to build relationships with people. Because people will put their content on LinkedIn, and then you can give your thoughts about it. You can have conversations. It helps a lot to have these social skills, because when I meet folks like yourself, and we get on a Zoom call or we have a phone call, it's very valuable to be trustworthy. It's very valuable to be authentic. Authentic is a buzzword that a lot of people hear, but there's truth to it. We cannot be a fake. No. We have to put ourselves out there and be who we are as an individual. We have to show respect. We have to show dignity. We have to show appreciation for other people and what they do. We have to believe that a lot of other people know more than we do. So I've done a lot with learning from others. When we display these social skills, people are attracted to us. And so that's the way I tried hard to be that, even from the moment I got on LinkedIn. And because of that ability, I have been able to develop very strong relationships with people over several years. That's why I was even recommended to you by Bob, because Bob is one of my strongest connections that I built a relationship with. But you can't microwave these relationships. It's not instant. No. Some of these relationships I have cultivated for years, 2, 3, 4 years, and that's how trust is built. And when I have a trusting relationship with this person, they tell me, hey, you should meet this person. Yeah. And then I talk to them, and they go, hey, you should meet this person. Yes. And so you build this network of strong connections. Sometimes they're in the same industry, sometimes they're not. No. But most, if not all, of my business has come because of the relationships that I've built. Not even really going out and cold calling, because I hate cold calling. I don't do that. It's more about it's similar to referrals. Yep. And when I put my own content out there, I will teach on LinkedIn. I will teach about various subjects, like being assertive, what it actually means, what it means to control our impulses, problem solve, anything related to emotional intelligence. When you teach people, and this is all, the only thing it costs me is time. Yeah. It doesn't cost me money to put together an article. It doesn't cost me money to make a phone call, other than time. So these are all financially inexpensive things.
Yeah. I'm not able to stop myself from asking. They
Please.
are financially inexpensive, I agree, but time is also money.
Hmm.
When we are using up this time to do something, um, then it might or might not yield results. And the slower the process is, then the desperate we get also, that okay, there's no money flowing in. I think this is one psychological challenge a lot of us that want to start something new or change into something fear. To be honest, how did you address that?
So my solution to that when
Mm.
I started my company was not to quit my job. What
Okay.
some people will do is they will borrow a lot of money,
Yeah.
and so they feel that pressure that if I don't perform by this day,
Mm. Mm.
not only am I not making money, but I'm going to owe money and I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
That raises the stress and anxiety level.
Mm.
For some people that has worked. I'm not going to tell people what to do. For me, for me, the more reasonable, because I have a family to take care of,
Yeah.
right? And I have a wife and I have a son. My wife has a lot of health problems that I've had to financially support. So there are certain realities when anybody wants to make a transition into something new, they have to take practical. They have to take practical measures so that if they make this jump, don't do it in such a way that it will ruin you.
Yeah.
So for me, when I started my company, I was working full time still. And
Okay.
that was what made LinkedIn so valuable, because even while I was working, I could still be active on LinkedIn.
Mm. Mm.
I could be swinging my hammer and firing a nail gun and doing my work and
Mm.
I just pull my phone out and I'll make a comment or two and then I put it away. And in the morning, I would make my content post and then go to work. And so
Wow.
it was a way for me to continue to support my family, and that allowed me to have that time
Mm.
to cultivate these relationships. Because you're right, it does. Time is money. The question is, when I spend my money, am I gaining more in return? And so what I've spent my time doing a lot of is building these relationships.
Mm.
Because if I spend the time and I have a long-term relationship, for me, that's valuable enough to spend that time.
Yeah.
And this whole time, and as time has gone on, I've been able to slowly stop working as much on my main job, because
And
the more successful I become on my new venture, the less I have to do over here, and
slowly let go.
slowly work my way out of it. So if
Mm.
somebody is in that position, that's what I would suggest. Maybe it's a job they hate, and I understand that. If we can adjust our thinking though and say, instead of being a job that I hate, now this job is leverage into something better. And
Exactly.
if we can change our viewpoint of the current job, that helps a lot
Mm.
as we make that transition and make a plan. What do you want to do and how do you do it, and then make a plan and go with it.
How did you approach your change? So we talked about how Dr. English helped you with things, and then you have decided she will be a part of your team working together and so on. But still, did you use any specific structure or how you will approach people?
That has evolved
Hmm.
over time. When I say I was green and didn't know anything, I was green and did not know a single thing. So everything I have done has been a learning process.
Yeah.
I have tried the direct approach, and that completely flopped. As far as just not trying to build a relationship and just heading straight in and trying to make
Hmm.
something happen,
Yeah.
I completely failed at that. So I stopped doing it. So my approach thus far has been to build the right relationships.
Hmm.
Um, so, and that means befriend, because we're never far away from a decision maker. Even if we're talking to somebody on LinkedIn who has nothing to do with the industry we are in, because trust is valuable. Trust, people will buy a product or service because of a recommendation from a friend. So by being authentic and being who I am, being valuable in that way, and I befriend people. I have had that happen to me where people will refer me because they know me, they respect me, and they appreciate what I do, and say, hey, so and so, you need to talk to Adam because he's in the industry you're looking for.
Yes.
So that has been my approach. Other people are different. Some people are born salesmen. That's not me. So I've had to what I've had to do is understand myself more. And the more I understand myself, the more I can use my strengths to gain business. Some people are just excellent at selling. And they can make a sale, and they can make a sale to anybody about anything. And they can make that money.
Yes.
But running a business is more than money. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of emotional and mental labor that goes into running the business. And beyond money. Money on its own does not make a business successful.
No.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. I have to ask you something very basic about emotional intelligence.
Sure.
I'd rather ask a dumb question, to understand better.
I like to say there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Thank you.
So go ahead.
Yes. The place where I live in Denmark, when I moved here 9 years ago, I got introduced to something called psychometric tests. And this I hadn't experienced before. So this was new. And of course, it had some basic questions about you and how you operate at different levels, personal level or in a group level when you're working with colleagues, management level, how do you approach leadership and so on. So many questions. And it looked like, okay, it could give an honest answer and see what happens. And then it throws out a map or a chart that shows you as a personality where you are, what type of a personality you are, and so on. And this is all very new to me, 9 years ago. I have since then understood how important it is for people out here in Denmark, especially, companies consider this as a very important documentation for them to consider someone for a job position. Do you think that these tools help in any way? Are they connected in any way to the emotional intelligence that we are talking about? Or can we make a mapping to that and do something to understand our own selves?
I believe they're related. I believe the more information, to me, the more information you have, the better. Anything that can give you insight into yourself is very, very helpful. Emotional, and to be clear about something too, for anybody watching, you have a personality test and you have emotional intelligence. They are not the same thing.
No.
Emotional and I'm just speaking to anybody watching too. A personality test is like what you were describing. It's how it's more about whether or not we're an introvert or an extrovert, whether or not we're it's the personality of
intuitive, or you're more planning, or this and that. A lot of things.
Emotional intelligence is about our skills in using our emotions. So anybody, we all feel anger, we all feel sadness, we all feel happy, we all feel joy. These are universal traits. So emotional intelligence is about our standard emotions and how we use them to be productive and benefit ourselves. So our personality and our EQ are related, but they're not the same thing. So I guess to your question, I believe they're very, very helpful.
They're helpful.
I believe a personality test is helpful in the sense that it helps us figure out what maybe some of our strengths are. because I recently took a personality test, the Strengths Finder, and it made a lot of sense, the answers that it gave me. And that was nice. It's a great confidence booster for sure about when it comes to what our personality is like. The only hang up about personality tests that I feel is that personalities change.
Yes.
So once we get our results, we're not necessarily, it can change over time. So if you have had a personality test, my recommendation is every so often take it again.
Take it again. Yes.
So the more, and these are all, I don't know how much research went into the one you described, but I know the EQI that I use, it's the world's first scientifically validated assessment. So what it says it measures has been scientifically proven, and it's regulated by the American Psychological Association. So there's a lot of authority to it. So there is, it's very insightful. You can trust it, and you can use that information to make improvements. Because what's great about these assessments is that maybe it will reveal a blind spot that we don't see. You know, because our mind, our perception is our reality. So our life experience, we can only see it from our own perspective. So by taking an assessment, speaking with other people, we can kind of get some insight into what the real world is like. You know, if I'm making sense, so that we can adjust, because it's all about our thinking. So if we can, the more information we can intake, the more data we can understand, the better. So did I answer your question? I kind of went on for a while.
Yes. No. I am I'm thoroughly with that. I'm now curious about this emotional intelligence. Is it the kind of test that we take, or is it something that we can try ourselves, or?
You have to, if anybody who wants to do it needs to find somebody who's certified in doing it. It's not something that you can do by yourself.
No.
So someone like me, I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people around the world. If somebody wants to do it with me, that's fine. Contact me. But the way it works is I'm certified through Multi Health Systems, the company that created it. They're based out of Canada, and so because I'm certified to use their product, what I would do if somebody came to me to take the assessment, as I would connect with the company and send them an invitation to take the assessment. And it is an assessment. There's 133 different items that somebody has to answer.
Wow.
It's a very thorough, it's a very thorough assessment.
Once the person is assessed, an individual is assessed, then they reach out to you to have a feedback on understanding a little more or interpreting a little more. Is that what happens?
Correct. So I would play the role of an interpreter, so to speak, because what the assessment will do, not only does it measure a person's EQ skill set, but it also gives them information on what kind of impact it may be having in their personal and professional life. So if I'm high or low, or a big part of emotional intelligence is to balance it. So how does one skill affect the other? How that may be impacting their work. And so I help anybody who takes the assessment. I help them, first of all, understand what their results mean. And then also in the assessment, it gives strategies on how to enhance the different skills. So if there's a particular skill that somebody wants to improve upon, it has, first of all, it has ideas right there that they can immediately start doing. And I'm there to help them. I'm there to help them follow through with that. Okay. And for anything long term, I do have a curriculum that I can use where we systematically go through and do some long term training. So it would depend on how long does somebody want the training, So I can do it short term or long term, but the assessment itself has information that they can use all by itself, and then there's a textbook and a curriculum that I can use too.
Okay. So you offer this support to individuals and also to corporates that need it on a bigger scale.
That's right. That's right. This can be done on an individual level or on a corporate level. So either way, you get more people in a corporate environment. On the individual level, it gets to be more intimate, more personal. Because I can give greater attention depending on the size of the group. I can do a group training. I can do a group training, and then meet with each person individually after that.
Yeah.
So they get the standard basic training, and then I can pick. Depending on the size. If there's 1,000 people, I can't do everybody at once. But if there's 20 people, I can do a group and then do each of them individually too. So it's all about. A lot of it is problem solving. It's how can a company incorporate this training while their business is operating? As far as
Very
timing.
Interesting. Have you had experiences where a particular group has taken your support in this manner and it has helped them evolve in a better manner with their, let's say, a project that they are doing, a change that they are doing within the organization or something? How do you think it impacts this? I'm asking this question just because a lot of companies, plan very well on their projects, project management and change management. There's a lot of tools, techniques available. They plan on that. But this emotional intelligence, I want to understand how much of an impact it makes to their overall project when somebody introduces it.
There was a recent experience that I had, if I can share this one. I have to be careful what I say.
Okay.
As far as private information. But there was an individual who contacted me. I trained this person for a few days. It was just one person, but this person worked for a manufacturing company. And I trained this person over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago. And it was about one particular EQ skill.
Okay.
And this person contacted me maybe a month ago to say that even those few days of training there on that one particular skill has made all the difference, because in a manufacturing company where they're overseeing factories of a lot of people, it requires a lot of human cooperation. And they were telling me that they've had a lot more success as a result of having had the training. But I mean, as far as information that's public, there's a website called EQ Consortium. There's a lot of data there as to how emotional intelligence has benefited companies, how it has raised their revenue. I can give you the link after we're done with the interview.
Yes,
if you
please.
Want. There's a lot of business case examples over the last 30 years of how emotional intelligence training has helped with leadership, how it has helped with raising revenues for salespeople, and things like that. So yeah, anybody can go to that website, and I'll share it with you, like I said.
Awesome. This seems to be so interesting. I still wonder why this is not touched upon so seriously as it should be by many of the institutions or organizations. Why do you think? What is stopping someone from, taking this initiative?
Well, there are different factors. One of which is it's hard to quantify how beneficial financially this is. Because unless somebody can literally say, for every, and some people have made assertions as to how much money can be gained for every point that you raise up your emotional intelligence, you make X amount of dollars or in it as a result. But in order for a company that has never done it before, how can anybody tell them, if you do this training, your revenues are going to go up by 100% or 10%? There's no data there to.
No.
So And so unless somebody already trusts that EQ helps with that, because it's all about how much does somebody believe that soft skills matter toward the bottom line. So, and I think that's where really the root of it is a lot of people don't necessarily trust or believe or care. Because I know until I had my training, until I had my life crisis, I had a negative view of coaching. I had a negative view of life skills training and things like that. So if anybody is in a decision-making position or a high executive position and they have a negative view of this kind of training, why would they invest money? It's all about, these are for-profit companies. They want to make sure that they are getting a return on their investment.
Exactly.
So there's skepticism. I think that's the best. I think that's the best word to use. So my solution to that is to look. I want to work with customers that already, or clients that already understand the value of EQ, because the idea of emotional intelligence, it's its own brand, and people it's becoming more and more understood that these sorts of things matter.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the assessment that I used also, because if a company ever wanted me to, I could do a research project and say, your salespeople, and this is one way I could do that, prove that EQ matters, is who are your top performers, and I will have them take the assessment, and I could use that data to demonstrate the difference in EQ and how EQ is contributing to their high performance.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing I could get into, but I mean, that's the basic idea.
Oh.
So, I mean, but ultimately, yeah, there's a lot of skepticism, but there's a movement. I mean, people are understanding more and more and more and more and more that EQ, soft skills, these are very, very important to having success.
Interesting. I'm now curious to understand, how did the COVID-19 situation impact you personally, and also this whole change that you already initiated even before the COVID situation?
Well, I'm not going to lie, it has been tough. What often happens when there is an economic downturn is training is thrown by the wayside a lot of times, because it is viewed as a luxury.
It is.
It is viewed as a luxury, and which I don't agree with, but I'm not the one in charge of these companies. So they, so, and I know I'm not the only one who has had to deal with this. So companies cut costs. They put training on the wayside. So it has been difficult to deal with. As far as companies willing to pay the money to have these trainings. However, that's the downside. The positive side that I have enjoyed, as that has come about, is this world, as a result of COVID, has become a lot more connected virtually. Like you and I, you're in Denmark, I'm in Florida. This would not be near as common had it not been for COVID. The horrors of how many deaths and everything like that, that's a separate discussion. But as far as its effect on business, the world has adapted to the point where I can do my work from my home for the most part. I still want to do in-person trainings, but this training that I do, like that one that person I was talking about before that I trained, they're from Europe. They're from overseas. I would never even have met this person necessarily if not for COVID kind of pushing people into being more connected virtually. So I can do these trainings. I could teach everybody from my computer. That's the advantage. So I can train somebody from anywhere in the world from my home. The disadvantage is the fact that it's not in person, because training is more effective when you're face to face and getting that emotional information from people in the audience. So there's give and take that comes with it. So I have leaned heavily on having these Zoom conversations and getting used to the technology and training this way, which before I was very focused on in-person training, which meant it meant travel, it meant plane tickets, it meant hotel accommodations that have to be worked into any contracts. Now it's, how many people do you want to train and when? I don't have to travel anywhere. I don't have to get on an airplane. I don't have to get a hotel room. I don't have to add that into the budget. I don't have to do any of that if I don't need to. If a company wanted me to, that's great. I would love to do that. But it's not. It's not a have to anymore. It's a want to. So that's how I have handled it. And again, you lean on. I have had to have patience. Wait it out, because this is not going to last forever.
No,
it's not. So it's just a matter of letting myself be in a position that I can, first of all, make sure my family is taken care of, which I've been able to do. And from there, then I can focus on moving ahead and trying to gain the business regardless. Because the good news is, because I work with an international, a national and international marketplace, people are willing to pay this money. I just have to find them, and they're just a little bit less than normal, but they're there. I just have to keep looking. And this far into COVID, I think companies are becoming more and more willing to make that investment. So that's how I have handled it. A lot of it was needing the emotional strength to keep moving and move ahead. And the belief, and this is key, that there's a belief there and an optimism that I can still be successful in spite of the challenges that COVID is hitting me with. That's true in business regardless. You have to have a belief that you can be successful. Because you can be highly successful now. We saw it with a lot of companies. They were doing excellent, and then COVID hit and they crashed. Even the restaurant industries. And a lot of restaurants have closed down where I live. I'm sure the same as other places.
It has been difficult, yes.
Yeah. And that's no fault of the restaurants. That's the situation. But, whoever ran those restaurants can turn around and open up a new one in the future. Just because that one restaurant shut down doesn't mean it has to stay that way. A lot of this has to do with just determination and resilience.
How does one go about identifying a career path?
If somebody is not certain what career path they want to be in, they may want to consider taking a personality test and getting a career coach if they can afford to pay for that. Another option is to explore. If you don't know what career path you want to be in, maybe taking some internship somewhere, part-time job somewhere in different fields, to just get experience doing things. If you don't know what to do something and start getting experience. At least start making money in the process of learning. This isn't, people change their career at 60 years old, 70 years old. It doesn't even, because I know a lot of youth, they feel this pressure to know exactly what I need to do the rest of my life right now. It doesn't have
on the most important point. Yes.
It doesn't have to be that way. If you are in your early 20s, you have a long time to figure your life out. It's okay to go in this direction and change your mind and go in that direction. The thing is, if you're going to, don't be a burden on an organization necessarily, in the sense that I'm going to quit in a year. That's not. We have to be fair to the companies we work for too. They're invest. Like if I go and work for a company for a year and then quit, all that time and money that they invested in me is now gone, and that leaves me with a bad reputation. And now they're maybe irritated. What some people will do is they'll go into if they want to go into the corporate world, there's an entire universe there. Maybe they start in IT, but then they wind up in HR. You can be in different industries within the same company.
Yeah.
That might be an option. You have to understand what your values are as a human being. If you understand what your values are as a human being and you want to match those up with the company you work with, because if their values don't match yours, you're not going to be happy.
No, not at all.
One of the other suggestions I would have is to think about what you used to do for fun when you were a child. What did you do for fun? What were you good at? And I've figured this out too. The things we are skilled at and are good at, we don't pay attention to them because we think they're easy.
Yeah.
But we have skills that people don't have, and they look at us and they go, "How'd you do that?" And you go, "I don't know, I just did it." So think about what your natural skills are, and you can talk to your friends and family about what is it I'm good at that you have seen, and keep track of that. Because if we take what we're good at and we apply it toward a career, we're going to get more satisfaction out of our career if we're using our skills, if we're doing well. It's great for self-esteem. It's great for confidence. You put all these together and you can figure it out. But probably my best suggestion is try not to feel pressured to have it all figured out. I'm still learning. I think we're all still learning. This is life. Life is a journey, and we're going to. A lot happens in life that changes our perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think you touched base on the second question as well, touching base on the challenges. With respect to but is there anything else that you want to talk about? The challenges one should be prepared for while starting into something new?
Yes. So something new could be like what I did and starting a business, or something new could be starting a new career path, working for somebody else. So that's what I think of when I think of something starting new. Either way, the one thing I will say is it will require emotional and mental energy. We have to. There will be forces pushing back on you, telling you that making you want to stop and quit and go back to what you're comfortable with, what you've been doing. So in that frame of mind, we want to be committed to whatever change we're going to make. Because if we're not committed to it, we won't stick with it. So be prepared for pushback. And I can't dogmatically say that's going to happen 100% of the time. Some people who make the change might be very fortunate and just flow. That's fine. But for myself, I had a lot of resistance as far as just making it a success. Anybody who runs a business can tell you that. The other thing I was going to say is be prepared for financial loss before you get financial gain. Because to run a business requires investment of time and money. And there will be loss usually. You have the exceptions to the rule where people just right out of the gate are successful. But to run a company, you have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in the organization, make an investment in various tools, technology. This all requires money. So every time you make money, it does this. You turn around and you have to put it back in somewhere.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say is to expect failure. We're so scared of failure. And sorry, you're going to fail. It's
oh God.
And so we have to, if we're going to make a change, we have to be okay with failing. Because failure, I hate even to use the word failure. It's simply a mistake or a learning experience. If If we learn something, it's not a failure.
Not at all.
So we have to, and I laugh when I say this, but we have to be okay looking stupid. Because that happened to me plenty of times, where I said or did something, or I fell on my face making an effort to do something, and I felt, and I don't mean actually being stupid, I'm talking about looking. We're all afraid of looking stupid, being embarrassed, feeling insecure. We have to have the courage to do something anyway, even in spite of that threat. So expect to be in situations where you're uncomfortable and at risk of being embarrassed or feeling bad if it doesn't work out the way you want it to. And I don't say that to scare somebody. It's just a matter of, if you're going to do this, if you're going to make a change, if you're going to start a business or go, because if you start a new career path, you're not going to know everything there is to know about the industry. You might have questions that other people are shocked at. Be okay asking questions. So, I mean, those are my thoughts about the challenges.
Awesome. Okay, now for the top 3 important things one should be aware of before making a commitment, any kind of commitment to a change in the career path or something new.
Top 3 things they should be aware of?
Yeah. Or mentally prepared for to.
I suppose I already kind of touched on it a little bit, but the first thing is they need to be aware that it requires commitment.
Yeah.
A career change will require change. So we have to be comfortable with change. If we're not comfortable with change, we have to get used to the idea of change before we make the commitment. But commitment is key. If we're not committed to our choices, this is what that's what it is a choice. We're making a choice, a decision to go off in a different direction. If we're not committed to that, we will not succeed. So be aware, don't do it until you are committed to making it a success. Second thing is, it doesn't have to be a quick change. We can take our time making it happen. If you want to change, so let's say somebody wanted to change their career, and maybe within an organization they're wanting to go from one branch to another. Let's say somebody from IT wanted to do something in human resources. Let's take that as a random example. You don't just go to somebody and say, switch me.
No.
That's not necessarily the wisest course. Maybe to start, maybe you go out of your way to start interacting with people over in HR. Maybe you introduce yourself to the HR director. Maybe you introduce yourself to any of the HR employees. Get to know them. Start asking them questions about the industry. Maybe ask them what education you might need to make the transition. Start gaining information. So
do the investigation.
Do the investigation. Start learning. What do I need to do to make the transition? Start getting practical advice. And you've built the relationships. Then you get the education. Then you go, hey, I would like to make the transfer. Then you set the stage for it.
Yep.
So formulate a plan and execute it is what I'm getting at. So be committed. It requires a commitment. It doesn't have to be a quick change. It can be a slow and steady growth toward change.
Yes.
And then to make a plan. Have a plan. Because even when I made my change, I knew I wanted to make the change. But I knew from the very beginning, okay, I have a basic outline of how this is going to work. I can fill in the gaps as I go, but at least I had a foundation with Dr. English. I went through the legal process of starting my company. I had an idea of what I was going to do. I didn't just one day say I'm going to be in professional development and just do it. I had something of a foundation. So, and just lastly, that it's going to test a person's emotional strength. It will. It will, because it takes effort And what I'd like to tell people too, anything worth having in this world requires effort. It will require effort. So that's where the commitment comes in, because if we have the commitment, we'll make the effort.
Yep.
So yeah, those are my thoughts about it.
What would be your advice or suggestion to corporates or educational institutions on how they are currently dealing with emotional intelligence? What do you think they could do better to improve?
I think, I think it's very important that companies institute these trainings on purpose and intentionally in their organizations. I believe training is foundational to success. And that means more. And a lot of companies, they lean on finding people. But if you can cultivate people inside of your organization, it's a lot. It would be very valuable to creating more leaders. It's very valuable to growing high performers within the company. So it's worth the investment to have somebody who is focused on your company, who can learn the company. And maybe it's in from within the company that this is done. Maybe it's a third party that's hired. But have a team dedicated to growing your company and its culture and its growing its people with their soft skills. Because job skills can be learned, and so can soft skills. It's not only about job skills. And what I try to tell people is, I could have, I compare IQ with EQ in the sense that we cannot use our IQ unless we have a strong EQ. IQ is like that tool, or a weapon that somebody uses in battle, right? It's that knife or that sword that they're fighting with. But if I don't know how to wield it, I'm going to strike in the wrong direction. I'm not going to, I don't care how sharp it is. It won't be effective.
No.
Our EQ, if we grow that will allow us to use our IQ skills to the fullest.
Oh my God.
So that's why I recommend not to have like a year long. Have a year-long program at least to be able to help people grow in their emotional intelligence. That helps with culture. It attracts the right people, because emotional intelligence is attractive. People are drawn to it because interpersonal relationships get better. People are attracted to good leaders because it helps with leadership. So you start attracting the right people to your organization. And it's just the performance goes up. But nothing happens. Like when we go to school, if somebody goes to a university to get a degree or an MBA or a PhD, they're not in school for 6 months or 6 days, right? They're in school for 4 years or 8 years or even 12 years. It's a long-term training.
Process.
The same is true with emotional intelligence. These soft skills are not learned in a few days.
No.
I mean, you could have a good point here and there, and it might make a small difference. But unless an organization puts the time, effort, and energy into training people for a long-term program, they'll never see the full potential of growing their people and their soft skills. So that's what I recommend. And if a company doesn't have the money for it, do as much as you can. Something is better than nothing. So maybe a day is all a company can afford for now. At least do that. At least, something, again, like I said, something is better than nothing. But ideally, I like to do a year-long program with an organization at a minimum.
Yeah, that will change the behavior of the group or the team or the organization itself.
Yeah, because if you don't have a curriculum, if you don't have a structured plan, life gets in the way.
It does.
work gets in the way. We have families to take care of. We have friends to spend time with. We have our personal problems. We have problems in the company. If the time is not budgeted, because it's not just about money, it's about time. If time is not budgeted to help train somebody, they won't get done. Not really. Not unless they're self-motivated.
Mm.
You know, but most people are just busy with their lives. So that's where a structured training program is advisable, because now I know on Monday at such and such a time, I'm going to spend an hour with my coach or my trainer and learn these things. And I'm going to have homework that's due that I have to do in between trainings. It becomes part of their life.
Yeah.
So I think companies would be wise to start incorporating in-house training programs like a school. I don't believe it's really an option anymore. I think any company that will do this, will make that investment, will have an advantage over companies that don't.
If somebody has to reach out to you, or what kind of support you are providing for individuals or for corporates, and how do they reach out to you?
The absolute best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. So Adam Rosensweig. If you do any show notes, you can.
I will put that. Yes, I will put that.
You can put my profile in there. Anybody is welcome to connect with me. Send me a personal message when you go to connect. Personalize the invite. Tell me that you heard about me on this interview.
Yes.
And I connect with most people. I love to talk to people. If anybody wants to connect with me and just talk, that'd be fine.
Okay.
As far as how I support individuals and companies, for organizations, I already kind of went over it with the last question. I prefer to have a year-long training program where I work with a group. If I were to do leaders, I start with an introductory thing and I go quarterly. I do group trainings, and then in between I'll give personal attention. Actually, Dr. English and myself will give personal attention to anybody who's involved in the training.
Okay.
And using the EQI, it's very data driven. So that's a big part of it. There's a before and after results, so they can actually see their progress.
Okay.
The same is true on an individual level. If somebody wanted personalized coaching, that is something I've started to offer. Either we can do the full spectrum of emotional intelligence, or if there are a few areas they want to focus on, we can do that. So that could be a year long as well. That would be monthly. I have a curriculum that I use with a book. You have the book, you read the book, we go through the curriculum, you have homework. It's similar to being in school, really.
Cool.
That I can train somebody if they're interested in making soft skill development a priority.
Awesome. This has been an amazing session. I have learned a lot, and I feel I need to learn more about this. It feels like I just opened up the door, and it's going to be a lot more of discussions. Maybe I want to do another session with you more. But is there anything that you wanted to say that you missed out, you want to say to the folk listening?
Just that, make time for your own self. As far as growing, education does not stop with high school. It does not stop with college.
No.
Life is education. Life experiences is an education. There's more than one kind of education. And so I would recommend learning is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
Knowledge and wisdom and the more we take in, the more valuable we become from a business standpoint, the more value we can add to an organization, but also the happier we'll get because we'll feel more accomplished. So, and I recommend add humility into all of this, because we don't learn without it, and we don't have solid relationships without it.
No.
And humility is a key ingredient to all success. So those are my recommendations. Those are words I try to live by every day. So So yeah, those are my final thoughts about it. And I'd be happy to get back on with you in the future.
This is amazing. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for this session.
You're very welcome. It was great to talk to you.
Yes, thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for this time, Adam. I am so happy that we had this conversation on emotional intelligence. I'm sure most of you would agree that we do come across this term. We know what it is, and we do have maybe access to workshops and so on. But the way Adam puts it, for me, it looks like we need to consider it more than what we already know to achieve our goals or to reap better results, or maybe to just understand who we are and what is possible for us. So there's something called what we are and what we can be. Maybe this difference needs to be mapped better, and emotional intelligence seems to help a lot in this manner, not only for individuals but also groups. The way I look at it, I can see the benefits of using emotional intelligence as a program, the way Adam puts it, in parallel with our projects or with our assignments, would make a lot of difference. This is an interesting discussion, and I think we just started the discussion with Adam, isn't it? Maybe we will have him around next time as well to have more answers from him. Yes. Thank you very much for joining in to understand emotional intelligence along with me and get to know more about what Adam thinks of it and what he has been doing as the specialist. If you're liking more of such shows, please do share your comment. Write to us at support@theglazestudio.dk. This is exactly how we are understanding each other and building this strong global community of change makers. Looking forward to having you again in one of my shows. Signing off from the Glaze Studio, this is Gomathi Sankaran. Bye-bye.